Tēnā koutou katoa. Salam alaikum. A special greeting to you, sir, and what you've been through and what you've survived and what you symbolise. It's very important in discussions like this to remember the dimensions of the pain that hate speech causes and has left indelible marks on our society. What I want to suggest to you tonight is that we are at times in danger of thinking that the solution to the threat of hate speech is effectively to require us all into some kind of political middle ground where we don't express disagreements. In contrast, I think if you listen to the panel carefully, in fact, we're advocating that there is an important place for the expression of disagreement and of debate, but it's actually teaching the tone and character of the way that debate should be conducted, which is the critical requirement for our generation. And the difficulty is that, take coronavirus. With coronavirus, there's instant things apparently, well, not quite, but in theory, that you can do as a protection. But the real concern is that there is no simple way to deal easily with the prevalence of hate speech. Precisely because in our very globalised society, people resort to identity politics in order to secure themselves. Now, I wonder if we don't need to teach instead better ways in which identity can be expressed when we relate to one another. Because I think much of the problem comes from a very, very long history where, let's face it, for many, many centuries, Christians from their territories, Muslims from their territories, and it's especially an issue for monotheistic religions, I think, but it is also true that among the Buddhist and Hindu communities, similar issues have emerged, but they've gone unchallenged because in that space, well, in fact, the culture encouraged you to express your identity, and nobody would, of course, dream of challenging you. Today, clearly, we're in a very different place. And isn't it wonderful to be in this different place where we are together, but we need to be together in our diversity. Now, I say that because I am struck that in Western society, the model that is often presented today as the solution is the secular model, defined as meaning that we shouldn't bring religion or political differences into the place which causes tension or disagreement. But look, this is not, in fact, going to be constructive in our contemporary society. It is extremely important that I may speak from my Christian convictions to you with your Muslim convictions, and that in that disagreement we will find actually growth, not simply of understanding, though I think understanding will grow from that, but also growth of space that we create for each other to live and to prosper and to see our society live and prosper. Now, thinking about the history, so often the story can be told simply from one perspective. So you'll be well aware that you can do a long trail through, this is really Doug's territory, not mine, but a long trail through Islam-Christian relations, and one should really add relations with Judaism as well, because it's equally complex and serious and important. And in each of those cases, there are horrific stories, of course, of abuse, and for the Christian side, the Crusades is the one that always springs to mind among Muslims and Christians. But I wonder if we were to tell the parts of the story where there were relationships, whether we could actually see that. It's easy enough to understand how the Crusades happened in the most primitive part of Europe. Whereas meanwhile, in that part of Europe in the east, on the site of modern-day Turkey, there Greek Christians and Muslims learned over centuries to work together and to cooperate, and both regarded the behaviour of the Western Christians who arrived as kind of weirdly barbarous in the way in which they responded. But even from Western Christianity, think in the midst of those terrible events, that extraordinary moment when Francis of Assisi set sail across to Egypt to meet the Sultan and to express a relationship in which he wanted to have a religious discussion and he wanted to express love. It's so interesting to know that there is a separate discourse that needs to be placed alongside the discourse of disagreement. It's not that Francis was compromising on anything or that the Sultan was compromising on anything. And of course, looking on, one may wonder how they even understood it, and perhaps they didn't really understand each other. But they wanted to find a place where they could listen to each other. And I think that discovering that real historical experience of dialogue might enable us to do what we need to be able to do in our contemporary society. I want to hear my Muslim brothers and sisters speak what is on their heart. I do not want you to feel so pressured by the New Zealand environment you think, well, I really shouldn't say that I believe that Allah is, indeed the true and only God. I would want you to have the space to say that, as I would want to have the space to say that there's a real sense in which we are worshipping one God, and there's a real sense in which we have disagreements about our understanding of that. But we will be the better, not for hiding our disagreements, but for showing a model of ways in which that may be expressed faithfully, clearly, honourably. And think what Aunt Jim said about language, well expressed, carefully expressed. And that's, I think, the bit that we so much all need to learn. What is a language of clear, appropriate, understanding discourse? Is it too much to hope that, in fact, modelling that may present a positive thing that we may do in the face of large numbers of, Paul's account was depressingly concerning. I do not want to go to the dark web and discover the miseries of what people are saying, but I feel the need that we will model appropriate ways to express it. I spend a lot of time talking to strange religious minorities. In recent weeks, I've been talking about the Shincheonji, which is the religious sectarian group in Korea, among which the coronavirus has spread. And I found myself on Korean radio stations describing, I'm intrigued that nobody in career seems to be the expert, and perhaps nobody dares in that context. And what I then got into, a series of them started writing to me, you see, and I tried to explain, not that I got any reply, but you can try to explain that yes, it is a critical point that we all need to consider we may be wrong. And if I approach that conversation in that approach, that I do it within my integrity, but I do it willing to listen to the other, then I think there is some hope that the identity politics, which really is on the rise in almost every direction, will not destroy a society, but create, I think, a model where a society is held together because we believe in the value of people being people of convictions. I have a sore shoulder at the moment, and the physio sold me for an outrageous $9 this bizarre little spiky ball. And the theory of the spiky ball is that if I can lie on it when I sleep, the irritation of the spikes will in the end take that tender, wounded muscle and make it, well, I've probably got the science all wrong, but make it so it's able to function as it should do. You know, able to be responsive, able to twist and bend as the body's meant to twist and bend. It's the most horrible experience. None of us likes to be in a world where, we are challenged in what we think. But I think we will be infinitely the stronger if we encourage a society where we speak with faithfulness and truthfulness and love to one another.